afternoon and good evening to all of you joining us today from the different parts of the world. For this webinar, well, it's hosted by the ICCE, Certified Chartered Economist, Institute of Certified Chartered Economists, sorry. And in today's webinar, we will be focused on Africa Continental Free Trade Area, where we will be discussing on accelerating Africa's competitive advantage through the AfCFTA. This webinar is under the ICC's new economic thinking series, which is global conversations around issues affecting our world, and you can be part of it as well. So thank you for making time to join us in this discussion. Now, before I proceed, please, that's okay. Okay. So, yeah, it's good. It's fine. Before I proceed, please allow me to introduce myself. I am Dikshita, and I will be the host for this webinar. And before we jump to the subject matter of the day, please allow me to give you a breakdown of the session, how it's going to be. So I would first begin by giving you a brief on ICCE, like an introduction on ICCE, especially for those who are new to this organization. After that, I'll introduce to you the moderator for this discussion, who will then take over and run us through the remaining sessions. We will have a Q&A afterwards, after we've heard from our panelists. So to the audience, participants, please do know that it will be an interactive session. So your questions, your comments, or anything that you would want to ask our panelists, please feel free to send us through in the Q&A session. So I'll just share my slide on this small presentation that we have on ICCE. Okay. I'm just not too friendly with tech, so so please allow me. Right. Okay. Is it coming, everyone? Is it okay? Fine. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Holger. Okay. So ICCE, Institute of Certified Chartered Economists. We have a short video. I tried to play it earlier, but you need to tell me whether the volume is okay. Let's watch this. Is it coming? It's not coming. It's okay, it's playing. Okay, please do let me know if the sound for this video was okay. If not, this video is available on YouTube and on our website. It's just a very brief introduction on ICCE. So, well, as I was saying, ICCE, we are a leading professional body of economic professionals. We are globally accessible, and our vision is raising economic professionals with the highest ethical standards through quality education and collaborative learning. As you can see here, the ICCE's leadership is made of several astute individuals from across the world who are part of the organization's Global Governing Council and the International Boards of Standards. We have Dr. Franny Lotier, a senior partner and CEO of Southbridge Investment. She's also the former World Bank Vice President and a former African Development Bank Vice President, we have Professor H.K. Pradhan, who is a professor of economics and finance at XLRI, one of India's leading business schools. We have also Dr. Mustafa Ibn Boama, Associate Professor of Economics at the University of New Brunswick in Canada, Dr. Lalima Mukherjee, Professor of Economics at the University of Engineering and Management in Kolkata, India, Dr. Azhar Hussain, Associate Professor of Economics at Roskilde University in Denmark. We also have Danielle Masia, Chief Economist at Deutsche Bank in South Africa, Dr. Barun Thakur, Associate Professor of Economics at Flame University, India, Paul Frimpong, Global Head Strategy and Membership for ICCE, along with Gorish Lagu, Global Head of Partnership, ICCE. We are, membership. So we are a membership-based organization. So we have a few guidelines and rules that prospective learners need to meet. So to be eligible, you need to be admitted to a bachelor's degree or equivalent. So holders of PhD, MPhil, MBA, MA, etc., you are eligible to enroll in the ICCE Charter Program. We also have 3 types of membership. We have 3 types of membership. Sorry, I'll just talk it here. So the first is learner, who is a registered member, who is yet to complete the ICCE curriculum. Second, a charter holder. This is an individual learner who has completed all the ICCE curriculum through the examination we offer. And third is the fellows, those individuals who can be identified through the contribution and impact they are making. Now, examination. So examination is basically a way to standardize all our members, because we understand that our members are coming from various parts of with different backgrounds. So this examination allows us to set a standard for all. And the mode of examination that ICCE has is a computer-based testing platform, which is available all year round, and it's available remotely. These examinations are offered at all levels in the first week of every month from January to December, and the pass mark for every paper is 50%. So the curriculum, we have our curriculum structured in 3 levels, and the specialization level. So level 1 constitutes of investment 1, microeconomics 1, macroeconomics 1, and financial systems and development. Level 2 has some of the continuation of level 1 papers. We have econometrics and corporate finance that is introduced in level 2. Level 3 here, we have economic and business ethics, international trade, and international finance. Now, on completing these 3 levels, you will have the opportunity to take professional level papers, which is basically here, as you can see, financial economist, financial economics 1, financial economics 2, petroleum economist, energy economist, health economist, managerial economist, marine economist, labor economist, and industrial economist. So this is the papers that are available in the professional level. You will have the choice to select any of those specialization papers. So as a learner or a member of ICCE, you are required to go through these examination requirements in order to be awarded the ICCE charter holder. So, of course, we do have application fees and other applicable fees. So I'll briefly go through this. We have a non-refundable registration fee, which is a one-time, one-off. So it's $210. The Institute is currently running a promotion, which gives 60% on this fee, making it $84, sorry. We also have a $59 annual subscription fee. In case you default, in case you default on your annual subscription fee, your account will be suspended and you will have a re-registration fee of $150 to bear. As far as the exam papers are concerned, level 1 papers are $54 each, level 2 papers are $63 each, level 2 papers are $63 each, level 3 papers are $72 each, and the professional gateway papers are $89. There is an exemption fees for level 1, level 2, and level 3, which are $45, $57, and $62 for each paper in every level. So, of course, we do have a final certification fee that's $225. So on average, for the ICCE charter program, you will be spending between 1,200 to 1,500 USD from start to finish for you to receive your ICCE certification. So yes, the Institute is running a full-time or partial merit-based scholarship. We have 4 types of scholarships currently that ICCE is providing. Future Economist Scholarship, Women Economist Network Scholarship, Media Professional Scholarships, and faculty scholarships. Now, more details about these are available on our website. So if it is of your interest, please do check it on our ICCE website. And if you have any questions, anything that you'd like our team to support you with, please do send an email, or there's a chat box available on the website, so you can reach out there, and the ICCE team will be ready to provide you with the necessary assistance. Yes, you have to apply online. This is the link to our website, www.charteredeconomist.org. So, well, I have reached the end of my presentation. So thank you for listening as I did this presentation. And if you need any further information, please do send an email or let us know in our chat box. For our participants here, you can also send us any questions that you have regarding ICCE in the Q&A, and we'll try to answer that as well. So I'll stop sharing this. Right, and to the topic of the day. So I'll give an overview, especially to our attenders. In January 2021, Africa launched its ambitious free trade area, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Subsequent to the creation and the first trade of AfCFTA, trade amongst African countries is anticipated to undergo a paradigm shift that would deepen intra-African trade as it removes trade and non-trade barriers that had stifled trading amongst African countries over the years. With a combined GDP of at least 2.5 trillion US dollars and a combined market size of 1.2 billion people, AfCFTA is poised to stimulate trade, leading to the creation of jobs, increased wealth, and eventually reduce the poverty levels within the continent. The AfCFTA, amongst others, will certainly deepen trade amongst member countries. Incidentally, Africa's private sector is largely made up of micro, small, and medium enterprises who may not be competitive to access the large rates operating in the region are multinational origin. We are here to prepare a more robust competitive advantage. What would be the policy frameworks and governance structure created required to create a competitive advantage for African countries. Now, joining us on the ICCE platform today is our panelist and our moderator. I will take the opportunity to introduce to you our moderator for the day, Mr. Emmanuel Amwa Darkwa, who will then take over and then get us through the rest of the topic and the discussion. So Emmanuel is currently a partner at CCAT Global and Investment Advisory Firm. He also consults for IHS Markit, a business intelligence firm which has its headquarters in the United Kingdom. Emmanuel is a chartered economist with specialization in economic policy analysis. He holds a BA in politics science and an MA in international affairs and diplomacy, both from the University of Ghana. Emmanuel and our panelists, please, warm welcome to you all. I'm happy that we have you here today joining us on the ICCE platform, and we look forward to an insightful discussion on today's topic. Emmanuel, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deshikta, for such a wonderful introduction. I want to say a very good afternoon to our panelists and then our attendees, wherever they are watching us from. This afternoon, we are going to discuss a very important subject in Africa, and it's about the African Continental Free Trade Area. The subject for today is accelerating Africa's competitive advantage through the African Continental Free Trade Area. So that is the subject for today. The Shikta mentioned a little bit about the introduction. This is the largest free trading area in the world in terms of participating countries. And if you look at intra-Africa trade in Africa, it stands about 17% as compared to 68% in Europe and then 59% in Asia. So it's a very important subject we are discussing today. To help us discuss this very important subject, you are going to have 4 panelists, a lady and 3 gentlemen. For me not to, pronounce people's name wrongly, I am going to let us do a 1 minute each introduction of ourselves, after which you are going to have 5 minutes presentation from each of the panelists, and then we are going to go into the Q&A session. I hope it's good. So I'm going to start from, we say ladies first. So I'm going to start from Matilda, after which I'll come to Pascal, and I'll come to Richard, and then Helga to tell us about themselves, and then the conversation will start. Thank you very much. So Matilda, it's your turn, please.
Yes, thank you so much. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all our participants and the panelists. So my name is Matilda Mkangundie, as Emmanuel has just introduced me briefly. So I'm Rwandan. I work for GIZ in the AfCFTA support program, specifically for the Rwandan component. I think that's a brief introduction about myself. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure joining this platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, colleagues. So my name is Chimoma Richard Mwage. I'm the trade policy advisor for the GIZ support program. So I'm based in Lilongwe, Malawi. Happy to be part of the panel. Thank you.
Okay. Pascal.
Hi, everybody. My name is Pascal. I'm from Togo and Germany. I'm living in Zurich now. I'm a legal background, and now I'm an investigator in financial advisory, then forensic, fraud, money laundering, and corruption issue. And I look forward to have this talk with you. And I'm not an economist, but I see there is a lot of specialists there, and I look forward to have this fruitful discussion with all of you.
Okay, thank you very much. Helga.
Good day, everyone. My name is Holger Vogt. I'm the Managing Director of Intra Africa. We are a Pan-African market advisory headquartered out of Nairobi in Kenya, with several other subsidiaries across the continent. And yeah, we were looking forward to having the discussion today.
Okay, great. So let me start from our first panel from GIZ on the same subject. that we are discussing. So I'm going to start from Richard to give us a brief introduction of how he understands the subject. So I'm going to pick 5 minutes each from our panelists, after which you are going to go into the Q&A. And at this point, I want to tell all attendees that if you go to the Q&A session, you can put a question there based on the presentations they are, giving us. And then at the end of the last presentation, I'm going to read out the questions to our panelists for us to discuss. So it's a very interactive program. Feel free to engage. Thank you very much. So let's start from Richard.
Thank you very much. So I think I'll also start highlighting a few statistics. I think you did mention about the intra-African trade levels, which do remain very low, and 17%, I think, according to the latest figures, and also with a global trade share of less than 3%. I think Africa has a huge potential actually for the export, for its export growth. And also in contrast with our intra-African trade in the continent, I think we can also see Asia, Europe. I think Western Europe is about 69%. And although even the African regional economic communities in Africa have actually achieved some improvements with regards to trade integration through trade liberalization, Africa still remains fragmented. And so coming back to the question, accelerating Africa's competitive through the AfCFTA, I think first and foremost, let me take advantage and maybe present an example from Malawi. I'm from Malawi. So Malawi, we do have competitive advantage in the agricultural sector and also a few selected sectors, one of which is tourism and also low cost labor. Plus also the country is actually naturally endowed with regards to natural resources. So these are some of the issues that as a country, we are supposed to harness through the AfCFTA. So with regards to accelerating now the competitive advantage, I think there are a number of issues that we need to ensure that we address. First and foremost, I talked of the agricultural sector. I think we need investments, we need the technology. So the AfCFTA itself, it presents that opportunity where we can actually tap into some of the investments. You talk of technology, and also we can actually source some of the raw materials from our neighboring countries, which will now aid into the sector itself. So this is one example whereby we can take advantage of the AfCFTA and try to build on the sector itself. Again, let me also take advantage and maybe make a presentation on the private sector. We know that governments do negotiate, but it is the business or the private sector that does the trading. So there are issues now to do with capacity, building capacity. As a project, as a project support for the support program to the AfCFTA, we are doing a number of activities with regards to supporting the private sector so that they can actually tap into the potential of the AfCFTA itself. And also, I think when we are discussing about the capacity of the private sector, we also need to ensure that they are trained or they are in a better position to actually comply with regional and also international standards, so to say. So these are some of the activities that we are trying to do. Plus also there's need actually to ensure that the private sector is sensitized when it comes to the new AfCFTA rules of origins, in order for them to know when it comes to when they're actually producing their products, when they're actually exporting, they should know these are the rules of origin. So it's also something that we as a project are actually doing. So in a nutshell, I can say that for us, in order to accelerate the competitive advantage of Africa with regards to the AfCFTA, I think we need to critically look at the private sector in order for them to ensure that they are able to now tap into the potential of the agreement itself. So there are other issues to talk of climate change, issues to do with gender mainstreaming in the agreement itself. These are issues that also we need to ensure that when we are discussing, when we're having these discussions, we also need to ensure that they are part and parcel of our discussions, because we know that the benefits will actually trickle down to especially women entrepreneurs, the youth, and also the civil society has to be part and parcel of our discussion. So these are some of the issues that we can actually try and ensure that at least we, through the AfCFTA, we are able to accept it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Let me move on straight to Pascal, and then I'll come to Matilda. Pascal, your initial comments about the subject, accelerating Africa's competitive advantage through AfCFTA.
Okay, I will take another approach that might be surprising. I will begin by telling a story I've heard a couple of years ago. So it's a friend of a friend, which is a custom agent in Togo. And this friend of friend has a very lavish lifestyle, cars, mansions, a lot of wives. And at some point, my friend asked him, but actually, what's your salary? How do you get per month? And I think it was in franc CFA, but let's put it in dollars or in euros. It was about 1,000 euro per month. And he said, hey, it's not possible. How can you afford all of it? And he said, yes, that is my salary, but I'm a custom agent and I can make by the end of the month by 10,000 or 20,000 euros. So much more than his salary is. The point is still today in some countries, in a lot of customs, a lot of people are bribing because they don't want to pay the customs, because you can, for example, if you want to take your car from Nigeria to Togo or any kind of goods, you want to bribe the custom agent, because there are too many taxes. There are too many customs, there are custom right that you need to pay to Togo, then you need them to pay again in Nigeria and sometimes in Benin and all of that. So what you can do, because you don't want to pay that much, you will sometimes drive the people so that you pay less. I think that this AfCFTA is a big opportunity because it will liberalize all the market. And more liberalization for me, it also means less customs, less taxes at some point, and that will lead to formalization. Some people are not, we know that in Africa, the informal market is the most important one, and there is cultural reason to it. But we also know that some people do not do it because they don't want to pay some taxes, or they don't want to pay multiple taxes. So I hope that with the AfCFTA, more people will go in the formalized process, and that will have the effect of make less corruption, because people will not need it to pay all of it. And the other aspect, because I will stay on the money laundering and corruption matter, I believe today there is a lot of corruption in our countries because we don't have enough partnership within the countries. Let me take an example. If you take big countries who have like raw material or petroleum, there is not a single company, local company, that can have the whole process for now. There is no mining company in Africa today that can make cobalt, that can make bauxite, it does exist. There is always foreign companies that will come from China, from Europe, or United States, whatever. So what happened? When these people come to the country, of course, they want to have the mining rights to make the exploration, and they will bribe people. And the people at the government will be, yes, they will take the money, sometimes they will do the job, sometimes they will not. So what I think and what I hope is that this AfCFTA will make the people understand that it's important for us as African to have more partnerships within countries. There is no reason that there are no mining company, petroleum company, but any kind of manufacturers company in the continent. And I hope that when it will be the case, there will be no more reason or less reason to, of course, there will always be some kind of corruption, but the corruption will be quite less. The other effect that can have the AfCFTA is to diversify your economy. We know that this global African market will be very interesting for the countries that already have a diversified economy, like have a lot of goods to export. The countries that do not have a lot of goods to export won't be that good for them. So I also hope that this will urge those countries to say, hey, it's time. We need diversification. We cannot it's not just petroleum, it's just those metals, it's just not mining. So we need to make some diversification. And with diversification, I hope that we'll get some point where there is real collaboration between our countries, which is not the case today. Sometimes we speak the same languages, we have the same customs or the same culture, but when you see the interaction, at least the formal interaction, because there are a lot of informal interaction, the formal interaction are not strong enough. And my point is, at some point, I do believe that this AfCFTA will help to fight against corruption, fight against money laundering, and I would be happy to have your questions after. And great. So this is my point, and I will hand over the mic.
Okay, thank you very much, Pascal. I'm going to move straight to Matilda to tell us views on the subject.
Yes, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Yes, starting with a few projections or statistics about that have already been projected by different sources. For instance, the World Bank currently projects by 2035 with an effective implementation of this agreement, 100 million Africans will be lifted out of poverty. And then also looking at the women, the gender salary gap will also be closed drastically, and also $450 billion by $450 billion and of African GDP will be increased by that. So to me, I feel Africa has diverse. Africa's intra-Africa exports are more diverse, and this makes them more useful to Africa's development and than actually Africa's trade with the outside continent. So, because our exports are comprised of extensive the exports that we do export outside our continents are majorly comprised of raw materials, fuels, minerals, and yet we have a potential to actually do the processing of these products. So to me, one of the major initiatives that Africa has to look into is increasing its competitiveness of farms to become integrated in the commodity value chains. So this can be done through reinforcing support to the micro SMEs. The micro SMEs are a major component in this agreement, and once they're left out, in the long run, this agreement will not yield the best objectives for it. This can be done through building capacities of these SMEs for trade development, and also, yes, and the other thing we can also do is strengthening and identifying the priority value chains for exports. For instance, if say Ghana is good at production, say of cocoa in the agriculture sector, so it's up to Ghana to strengthen the value chains of say cocoa, and if say Rwanda is good in adding value to cocoa, say to produce say chocolates through from cocoa. So it's up to the different member states to identify their value chains and strengthen those. Through that, we will have a complete value chain, say, of a product, other than exporting our raw materials, say, to other outside countries, other outside continents that will again, we shall re-export back to Africa at a very higher cost. Secondly, looking at the others, the other thing is Africans should also have and also aim at having a competitive service hub for the African market. This can be done through deliberate policies and policy actions and investments to further develop and expand, say, air transport. I give an example of Rwanda. Rwanda has a very high potential to become a continental aviation hub for both passengers and cargo, and this can also this can be achieved by targeting the African market under this AfCFTA. So if Rwanda strengthens such sectors like the air transport, the e-commerce, Rwanda is also very good at, has a very high potential in the ICT and this will boost its e-commerce to enhance its competitiveness. So generally, if member states identify priority sectors where they can leverage and strengthen facilities or infrastructure or direct all the trade policies, trade policies, I think in the long run, the AfCFTA will yield, its intended objectives. The other thing I think Richard mentioned about the extensive awareness of this AfCFTA. Yes, we have. Maybe at the end of the day, we shall rectify, negotiations will be done on the political level, but at the end of the day, it is the private sectors, it is the private sector that will yield from this agreement. So an extensive awareness of this AfCFTA is through the private sector, even in the public sector. Because since it's the public sectors that are doing the trade facilitation and supporting the private sector in this, some of the implementers, say in the Rwandan Development Board, may not have extensive knowledge about this. So it is up to the political level of the member states to draw a communication plan from their level up to the last minimum beneficiary, who is the micro SME. The other thing is looking at, yes, I think generally that is it. And then on the political level of it, we should look, the government should look at completing the AfCFTA implementation roadmap for now, because there are huge delays in timely implementation of the AfCFTA commitments, where you can have a case for those member states that are existing in the RECs. They have to submit their offers as their RECs, and there are some member states within those RECs that may not submit their offers on time, or they take long to participate in the negotiation. So this delays the finalization of this implementation roadmap. So thank you so much. In brief, I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matilda. We are going to go into it in detail after Olga's presentation. So Olga, as a market entry strategist, what is your view on this very important subject?
Thanks, Emmanuel. And I think the difficulty of being last is because everything has been said in a way. The beauty is people are still listening. But and you rightly said, let me maybe take it more from a private sector perspective. I'll leave all the statistics aside, and usually smarter people than me know more about it. But let me take it a bit from a private sector. And I think just to start off, right, it's what I often see is when people talk about the AfTA, we compare the AfTA a lot with other regional blocs. And I think that's quite a big mistake that we're making, because AfTA is different. There's nothing of the size of the volume anywhere in the world. It's unprecedented. And one comparison, though, I think, which we should always remind ourselves, is if you look at blocks like the EU, for instance, why did the EU start? It's basically to create peace in a region of instability. After that moment, it was about creating wealth and economic opportunities for the region. And now that is growing, it's trying to match economic development on all levels. So why AfTA then? And if I look at it from the private sector perspective, I mean, leave alone the ideas of trade barrier reduction, harmonization of duties and all that stuff, we know we need that. But in the end of the day, it's still about creating wealth for our society. It's about creating employment and diversify our economies. If you look at the current portfolio of our countries, a lot of them are quite dependent on 1, 2, 3 commodities. That's it, right? And you're not creating employment by government. You're creating employment via empowering the private sector. And I think if you look at the topic of your discussion today, you're talking about a competitive advantage. And to me, having a competitive advantage is something, you have something that enables someone to outperform its competitors. Right. So what are our attributes on the continent that we have that can really let us stand out? And I think we have it all. However, we're not making use of it as much as we could. And that goes into all, I think, the value chains that we all know. I think easiest to grasp is agriculture, right? If you look at how wealthy our countries are when it comes to the agriculture sector, however, we're buying finished goods from overseas in a lot of places, right? If you look into that opportunity in itself, I mean, myself, I live in Kenya. We export 95% of our coffee to the rest of the world. There are 4 manufacturers of coffee. And yes, they're probably better than what you might get elsewhere. But to be very frank, we're still talking Starbucks level. We're not talking high-end level. Right, so a country like Kenya, who is producing probably one of the best coffees in the world, should also locally process it. Right? Why are a lot of farmers sending it straight to the auction and then sending it off to Dubai and elsewhere to be roasted? It's because of profit margins. They do not see the value of even just adding a small roastery to their coffee plantation. Right, and I think that is a serious issue, and I think that is where AfTA can come in and will come in eventually. But also, if you look at, let's say, countries like Nigeria, Benin, right? It's basically a race of the mouse against the elephant, right? And the beauty of being a mouse and knowing that you're a mouse, you're very flexible, right? It takes you so much time, or you're so much quicker running around the elephant than the other way around. Right, so it takes much more time. So what does it mean? It means you have a very strong competitive advantage in the region, which you can utilize. If you look into how goods are moving in West Africa, let's stick to those two countries. A lot of the trade comes via Benin to Nigeria. Of course, some people will say it's easier, or it's there are other ways of moving goods into the elephant country. But it means you have a clear advantage compared to your neighbors. And I think if we all want AfTA to be successful, I would really also in private sector urge our leaders and also our countries to start sitting on the table, not with the intention to protect your own country, first of all, but to see it from a regional lens, right? There's no need to say my country first. If I look at the EAC, we're not even agreeing to things amongst our 3-4 countries that are actually coming to the table. Why is that? Because everyone wants to make sure that they get the biggest piece of the pie, not understanding that you might not get any pie if you just want to eat your piece of the pie, right? So I think if you look at AfTA, there's so many different areas that we can look into. I'm very optimistic about it, but I'm also realistic about it when it comes to, let's take it step by step. Let's focus on our Intra African challenges first. Let's try to solve them one border at a time.
Yeah.
And out of that, I think we can grow into something that the world hasn't seen before.
Great. Let me stay with you, Holger, as an investment advisory, firm. What are the three challenges on top of your head that investors who want to invest in the continent prefer? And how can we resolve it if we want to take advantage of this Continental Free Trade Area agreement?
I'm glad I'm first now, Emmanuel. Thank you very much. So don't have to think too much. But let me maybe define investment, right? So when I talk about investment, I mean physical expansion or setting up of firms within the respective countries, right? So I'm not talking about just a financial investment. It's an actual commitment to a country. And I think one of the key aspects every investor is looking for is security, but not from a political perspective. It's about from an investment perspective. Can I ensure as an investor that my investment is safe long-term and I'm not going to be forced to either leave or that I don't have a market opportunity? We see a lot of companies that put market opportunity first and then all the other challenges come up. Right? Once a company sees great potential in a market, and to be very frank, unless you are a country like Nigeria of the size of Nigeria, you're looking regionally, right? So if you're deciding to enter East Africa, you're looking for that first entry, but in the back of your strategy room, you already know, I want to conquer the entire region. And the question now is, how can I achieve that in which country? Second point that a lot of investors are very concerned about is, will I be able to produce the exact or better quality that I'm used to elsewhere in the world, right? So I'm more looking on the practical level, not on the high end side here. So, and once people are realizing that and they see, okay, we get the equipment, we get the labor force, we get the environment where we can do business, and of course, every produced good or a machine or whatever has to be moved, right? And unfortunately, right now it's still, but that's what we're all hoping for after can reduce the challenge of moving goods or finished products from A to B is possible and affordable. I think that is often where the issue comes in when we talk about moving goods. And I think you asked me for three. So the final one would be: will I be able to use that country where I started? Because we usually work with either first-time investors or secondary investors. Most of them started off in South Africa and now they go Pan-Africa. So welcome to Africa. What they are trying to achieve now is, can I use that investment as either a blueprint or another catalyst for the rest of the region? Because usually if you look into the continent, we are literally talking about 4 main regions. If you are looking at from a production perspective, right? So South, East, West, North, and eventually Central is developing. But I think from the hubs that have already emerged, I mean, we have some people from Rwanda here. The country like DRC is easily managed from Rwanda. So I think, to summarize, those would be the 3 key aspects. International investors are keen to elaborate before they start investing and dedicating themselves to a country.
Okay. Fantastic, Holger. Let me come to you, Matilda. Before I come to pick the questions, we have some questions in our chat box. So please keep the questions coming. Matilda, in your presentation, you made mention of a very, very important subject, that is the value chain. How can African businesses position themselves to play a key role in global value chain and tie that to this agreement we have on the continent?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. As Elia said, we have to aim at increasing the competitiveness of farms to become integrated in the commodity value chains. This can be done. Giving an example, we have to support and strengthen those identified as I had earlier said, that they identified priority value chains for the exports. And this can be based on areas in which we have a stronger dynamic comparative advantage. You know, all countries have priority sectors. So strengthening these sectors, strengthen these sector value chains with capacity development, equipment upgrading, and standard certifications will improve their competitiveness to penetrate the AfCFTA market. Also, doing market research studies with these specific penetration strategies on market identified for the country's comparative advantage and competitive products and services will supplement the trade promotion initiatives that all member states have. So areas of focus will be in terms of market access procedures, product certifications, for instance, and standards, nature and type of competition, price differentials, and export and import channels. So then deliberate measures to enhance integration of SMEs in the regional. We should also look at not only the continental level. We should also look at the regional level of. Okay. We have to first start at the regional level of enhancing these SMEs. So as we all know, you can't. A company or a business cannot compete on a continental level if the regional level is really hard for it. So integrating, first of all, domestically and also having capacity to supply regionally, and eventually we shall get there on a continental level.
Great, fantastic. Before I come to you, Richard, let me go to Pascal, and based on his experience in compliance and money laundering and those kind of issues. Pascal, from what you said, what kind of strategy must we adopt to be able to curb, corruption and money laundering, these kind of illicit financial flows once we are going together or once we are trading as a continent? What should be the strategy for compliance?
It's a very tough question because there are, I would say, two aspects of it. I will start with the most tough aspect, which is the political dimension of it. To stop, have less money laundering, have less corruption, unfortunately, you need the government not to want it or to have less interest in doing it. I think, and that's very tough because those are the ones who decide, and if they don't want, it's very tough to make changes. The only thing will to make them understand that on the live vision, they will get even more with no corruption. But let's go for the technical, I would say, advices. For example, I live in Switzerland, I work there, and they got something which is called the MROS. And the MROS is an entity, for example, when you make some transaction with your bank, it will report to you if there's thing, for example, there is like money laundering suspicion, terrorism suspicion, corruption allegation. They will report it, they will freeze your money, and they will analyze the transaction before it doing. I think it would be very helpful if we have something like that, not only in one country, but at regional or continental level. Because today you can see in many countries, people can get in DRC, for example, take 100,000 cash in the banks. That's real. Or there is a lot of transaction, the transaction in Africa, or the wire transaction abroad to BVI, to the Emirates Arab Unit, to many countries, many locations, and this is not taken. This is not tracked.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing will be traceability. Okay. We need traceability of all our transaction. And we think we need to have like the complete, the big country, we need them to have like a very compliant banking system, which is not the case today. Okay. On my perspective. The other thing that I will suggest, people need to be educated in the good way to the best practices. And best practices is not only to the company. Of course, you can have a beautiful compliance management system with the whistleblowers. I think whistleblowing is very important because you can know when something gets wrong. But I think on a deeper level, we need to make back people understood, as Olga was mentioning, it's all about opportunity at some point. And what I think it's sad today, it's most of people think the only opportunity is to bribe. Why would I work? Why would I, not all of them, of course, but some people just think that, yes, I mean, I don't want to work, but I can have millions by doing this, so I will just do it. But I don't believe that. I think you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a successful entrepreneur. So you need to make people believe and embracing that working actually pay. But this is also linked to the politic, as I said, because when you see the politic, you see some people who are, some theft are stealing the country, they have having the beautiful house and cars. Why would you want to work? So this is a very deep problem, because it's not only about the leaders who are stealing the country. It's also about the regular people who do not trust the leaders, but who do not trust anything. And when they are put in the system, they do exactly the same. They will bribe a policeman, they will bribe for this, like only for little things, but it makes that the whole system is kind of messed up. So it needs, this question is maybe one of the most challenging one, but I'm
get it.
Optimistic and we'll succeed it.
Great. There's a follow-up, but let me come to Richard. In the Q&A session, I have two questions. I want to direct the first one to Richard. Richard, please, this is your question. Given the homogeneous nature of raw materials produced by countries in Africa, how is trading going to be like? Is it the case of the quickest country to industrialize benefits most or gets to take advantage exporting goods to other countries within and even beyond the area? So basically about the homogeneity of goods that is being exported on the continent. How is trading going to be like?
Thank you very much. So maybe I would approach this question in this kind of way. I think as African countries, we have to separate between the developing countries and the least developed countries. So for instance, let's take for a least country like Malawi. I think it does export agricultural products. You're talking of tobacco and what have you. And let's take, for instance, a country like Kenya. So it does actually export a lot of manufactured products. We're talking of, let's say, beverages and foodstuffs. So in order for the trade, when it comes to the African continental trade to be like, it would be now, the country is now trying to look at where a particular country has competitive advantage on. So for instance, if for us, we can export, let's say, tobacco to Kenya, and Kenya adds value to the product itself, I think it can be exported across the region, after which then we can actually also export to other markets, for instance, the EU. So now it will depend on us as African countries trying to build on these regional and global value chains in order for us to export products to our neighboring countries, in order for them maybe to add value for that particular product, so that we can actually export it to the region or the international market. So I would answer that question in that kind of way, that we need to focus on adding value to our products and also addressing the supply side constraints that we do have as countries. We know for a country like Malawi, we also need to ensure that we have addressed our supply side constraints in order for us to export more, because there's competition that is actually coming because of the AfCFTA. So these are issues that we need to ensure that we have addressed, and for us to add the value so that we can export. Thank you.
Great. Let me come to you, Helga, with this question, after which I'm going to come back to you, Matilda. So this question is by Bismarck Chey. What are the measures being put in place for a cost-effective and efficient means of transporting goods and services within the area, as it's currently argued that getting goods over to Europe and Americas are cheaper and faster than within Africa? So basically about the question of infrastructure development on the continent.
You know, it's a good question. I think if you look into, especially the comparison, it's a big comparison, you know, and of course, it is cheaper and quicker to move goods, unfortunately, out of the continent than within the continent, right? Why is that? Very simple, everyone knows it. Fly from Kenya to Joburg, and you're paying the same price than you're flying from Kenya to the US, plus minus, right? It's lack of opportunity, right? The market is not mature enough yet to provide options. When there are options, first lesson in economics, price go down, right? If there's less option, price go up. Very simple.
Yeah.
I think we have to ask ourselves the question, why are we still debating about that? And why are we not moving into integration of the region, right? If you look into, I'll give you the East African example, the guys from Trademark, who are doing, I think, a fantastic job in the region to really cut down on barriers. Look into inefficiencies, right? How much does it cost to move a container from Mombasa to Kampala now versus 1 year ago? It's reduced significantly, right? But still, it's if you give them comparison to saying, how can my tulips and my roses who fly every night out of Kenyatta Airport, Nairobi to Amsterdam, be cheaper than me bringing my roses to Kigali? There has a clear problem of us thinking about the opportunities within the continent, right? Why do the tulips have to go out? Because they pay more, full stop, okay. You know? Why not to Kigali? Maybe the demand is not there. So how can we create that demand? How can we ensure that you know, our economies are attractive enough to leave our products in the country or in the continent? I mean, I would usually refer to myself as a neoliberal protectionist. So for all the social scientist guys here in the room today, figure out what that means. But bottom line is, I believe we have to look at us in the region first, increase incentives to make it attractive for all of us to trade with each other and not keep asking ourselves, how can I get a bigger piece of the pie than the other one? As the gentleman said earlier, if you produce something, let's say in Rwanda, and you manufacture or value added in Kenya, that's a massive edit. That's great. That's what we're all looking for, because that means the person who consumes this back in Rwanda pays a cheaper price than if he imports it from the US or elsewhere. Yeah. So I think we need to stop thinking outside and thinking about, you know, what happens if, and look at what's the current status. Let's move ahead and let's see how can we create values in our own region, because we have the biggest opportunity by trading amongst ourselves. That's the essence of the AfCFTA.
Fantastic. Yeah. I'm going to come back to you with a follow-up question, Holger, but please note it down. According to UNECA, infrastructure deficit on the continent is about $93 billion. The big question is, how do we fund infrastructure to propel intra-African trade? So please note that. But let me come to Matilda. There's a question from Mr. Paul Frimpong. Now the question is, how does or can AfCFTA drive sustainable growth and job creation on the continent? How can AfCFTA drive sustainable growth and job creation on the continent? Matilda.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much. One of the biggest competitive advantage Africa has over maybe other continents, it's youngest population, and also that is growing at a very faster rate.
Yeah.
As you all know, maybe by 2050, Africa will have the youngest population. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
We have to leverage on this growing population that is young. We have to, member states have to find ways how they can increase the capacity of this workforce that is growing. And as earlier, most of the panelists said about the value chains. the regional value chains and adding adding value to our product. This increases, the longer the value chain, the longer the more the labor force that is needed in this. So once, say, one value chain is added to say to a product, that is more industrialization that is brought on board. So that also brings more, the biggest labor force that is needed to produce that added value of that product. So to me, once our industrialization is strengthened, industrialization comes or is positively related to the labor force that is needed there. So the bigger the industrialization, or the stronger the industrialization, the manufacturing sector, the bigger the population, and also our population will get the jobs, and eventually unemployment levels in Africa will eventually reduce. If I've answered the question thoroughly, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Matilda. There's a comment from Marcelo Newman, and this question I'm going to direct it to Richard. So, Richard, please pay attention. To develop, you need financial resources like loans, not tied to buy foreign goods. How can Africa find their, or maybe he means that, how can Africa find, development of most of their fiscal budget? No, it means that the question is not properly structured, but maybe the person is saying that, how can, with this huge budget deficit we have on the continent, how can we be able to trade properly and fund our own investment?
Thank you. I think as African countries, I think it's high time we started mobilizing resources in our own countries. And also, I think we have to take advantage of the carbon, for instance, let's take non-revenue that we can collect from other sectors like climate. We're talking of carbon tax and what have you. I think these are some of the measures that government can actually put in place for us to actually mobilize resources in our own countries. Plus also, I think one of the colleagues mentioned about it, the issue of corruption. I think it's high time we have the political will in order to ensure that we address this issue of corruption, because I think as African countries, we do have the resources, but I think it's a matter of political will. So if we can have the political will and then try and find other sources for us to mobilize the resources, I think we're in a better position for us to actually ensure that the AfCFTA is implemented with maybe our own resources. Thank you.
Okay, great. Richard, I'm going to come back to you, but let me note this question down. I'll come back to you and after Pascal. Now, the question is, we all know that, this is from Todd, we all know the COVID-19 pandemic has had a negative impact on Africa's economy. Will the pandemic also have a negative impact on AfCFTA? What are your thoughts of mitigating or reducing these negative impacts? So will COVID-19 negatively affect AfCFTA? What are your solutions? So let me come back to you, Pascal. In your presentation, you made mention of we having sort of a morose, if I got the pronunciation right. In Ghana, we call it a Financial Intelligence Center. So if there is a suspicious transaction, the banks will liaise to them and say that, maybe Pascal, I suspect that these transactions are fraudulent. This is just an example. What level of engagement should we have on the continent in terms of linking our financial intelligence centers? So maybe the Financial Intelligence Center of Ghana and that of Nigeria, so that we'll be able to curb corruption and anti-money laundering.
I think we're kind of already doing it for taxes. I think there is the OCDA, they're exchanging information. So when it's tax related, they will exchange some information to be sure that when you're living in this country, but you have like an account in another country, you will get you will be sure that you will pay the taxes on all of them. But I'm not aware, maybe there is, but I'm not aware of a centralized banking system for reports. And I think it's politic will. Of course, there are a lot of details. It's technical. It's very hard to implement. But for me, the thing is, do people today want to have transparency?
Yeah,
that's the thing. To be if we need to be fully honest, and I'm not sure of that. I think some people want transparency for other people, but they don't want transparency for themselves. So it's how it's you will always see like there is some audit. Yeah, we want to audit this company, but you will always see that there are some companies that are never audited. I ask yourself why. So it's very, for me, what we lack, and we were talking about it, about investment, and I will take the same approach. We need to have a regional approach, which is not the case today. For example, if you want to build some manufacturing, it can be to do like tomatoes, can be oil, can be anything. It costs a lot of money. Sometimes, okay, you can make an international loan, you can have pay it on 30 years if your country have good rates enough. But I think it will also be possible to connect with countries, like countries which are beneath you, and say, you know what, we'll trade this company in my country, but we'll export some part to you, or you will be the whole chain. Because as I think Olga said, the market, it's too tight. It's not really like when you have like 10 million of persons, yes, for a big company, it's nothing. In Switzerland, it counts because people are very wealthy. So even if people are 7 or 8 million, it's like they are 30 or 40 million. But in a regular country, when you need to have a lot of people. If you don't have a lot of people, you don't have a market. And what I think it's sad today, I do not see enough partnerships between countries regarding this. Regarding companies, say, oh, okay, you know, I'm very good at, let's say I'm very good for financial. Okay, so I will provide a banker. I'm very good with engineer. We lack a lot of engineer in Africa. We don't have enough in engineer. And when you see the big projects, they will also always make Westerns or foreigners and engineer, because they are not engineer. They have no engineer. There are not enough engineer. That will cost a lot. And so this is also about formation. Everything is linked. So if we go back to the MROS that I'm saying, if you need to implement something like the MROS, yes, you need to have people who are also, who can deal with it, because it's a lot of IT, technology, people need to be trained for that. And you need to have enough resources for it. But it's possible. People are incredibly smart in Africa because they're used to very uncommon situation. So I think they will be more than able to do it. But we need a breath. I think what we lack is that we don't have the political breath because a lot of leaders just don't care. But I think it's, when we say that it's too easy, it's our job. I mean, as human, as African, as whatever, to do what you want to do. What can we do? It also can be like speeches, what we're doing now. It can be also a very concrete project. I think at some point we do not need to wait for the government anything. If government make things, that's great, but let's always hoping, yes, they do this. It's, for me, it's pointless. Let's see what the civil society can do. There are a lot of people are very smart. I think people don't see the opportunities and don't have enough opportunities. They're there, they are smart, but they don't know what to do. So we need to provide them a framework so that they can work with, and it can be for them create them ROS, can create anything, but it needs like very strong roots.
Great. Thank you very much, Pascal. There's a question pending with Helga. Can you please run us through how can Africa fund its huge infrastructure deficits to aid intra-African trade?
I think if I would have the exact answer to that, I would be extremely highly paid consultant, which I'm not. But let me maybe tackle it at least as a consultant, right? I think we had the issue of finance already. And me personally, I'm someone who really dislikes banks with a passion, especially on the continent. If you look into the highest profit makers on the continent, they're banks. Right? Yeah. How can, and that is complete mismatch from what we're talking about. It is not healthy to borrow in 2 digits interest rates. It just does not make sense, right? If you and I'm not on that level, but if you as government would regulate, in my opinion, banks more, to say you cannot lend to businesses in particular, leave alone the innocent population, and 2 digits, it's just, you will never get to the level where you can use the potential the market has, right? Yeah. It's just not possible. We are borrowers. We borrow from friends, from people, from everyone, right? To make sure that we have the money available to do business. Once you do business, we talked about earlier, you create jobs, you create wealth, and so on. It's a cycle, right? And but infrastructure, let's stick to that topic. I would include the building construction sector into infrastructure. And I give you a live example that we are currently working on here in Kenya. It's affordable housing, right? It's an infrastructure deficit, not just in Kenya, across the continent. Now, technology comes in to speed up the process, reduce the cost, and everyone says, wow, that's what we need. Do they want to fund it? Maybe not, right? Why? Because even within the countries, and that's again when I come back to my pie theory, right? Everyone still wants to sit on their fat pies. And if I look into infrastructural firms, developers, construction firms, they're making, sorry to use the word again, fat profits throughout, right? They're making very good money on the back of who? The population, right? So how can we move away from still making that profits, but now think about scale? Because if I make 10 million a month now, I can make 100 million if I open and scale up my production, my infrastructure investments, etc., but not on the back of 12-15% of interest rate, right? I'm not gonna finance. And I think also if you look into the continent, and I'm fortunate enough to have lived here since almost 15 years now. A lot of our industrialists, right? They are now in the age where they made it, right? So why should I, not me, but let's say if I'm in the shoes of an industrialist in the continent, invest another 15, 20 million into a production plant? I've made my money, right? It's now the youngsters who are coming up, who are struggling to finance their operations, their enterprise. And I think that feeds into also how do we decrease the infrastructure gap. But then at the same time, and that will be my pledge to governments, is if you think about some of the big infrastructure projects, right? They are going out as tenders, and then often, I mean, especially infrastructure is not a secret, are rewarded to companies who are state-backed, right? And those state-backed companies are now squeezing the profits out of the continent. Right. If you look at roads, we now, if we look at the east and even in the west, we're now surprisingly found out there are toll roads, right? So now the question is, who makes the money with the toll roads? It's the builder, the developer, right, who gets a concession for 20 or 30 years, often packed to the USD or to the euro, to make sure that money comes out of the country easily, right? If I want to repatriate money from our South African firm to our Kenyan firm, I have SARS, the local financial authority on my back or my neck, right? Yeah. So I think we have to ask ourselves the question in the bigger picture, and that infrastructure is government to a large extent. What are we doing on that front? Why are we supporting foreign firms over our local firms? Because we have the firms in the market, right? We might not be able to handle it so that we can form a conglomerate, but a government is able to give the requirements how to win a tender. Simple as that. That's where my neoliberal protectionist approach comes in again. Thanks.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Is Matilda still on the line? There is a question from Boatima. I'm going to read to her. But before that, let me pick your comment, Richard. I think we have about 10 minutes to wrap up. And after 10 minutes, we will be giving our closing remarks and we are going to call it a day. So, Richard, what is going to be the negative impact of coronavirus pandemic on AfCFTA?
Thank you very much. I think we have already seen the negative impact of the pandemic on the AfCFTA. I think the start of trading of the AfCFTA itself, it was actually postponed from last year, July 2020 to this year. So this is one of the negative impact of the pandemic itself. But I think it also presents an opportunity for African countries actually to innovate issues of production of vaccines and also investments in the ICT sectors. I think these are some of the issues that we have actually seen with the pandemic. So I think we shouldn't dwell much on the negative aspects of the pandemic itself, but I think we should also focus on some of the issues or some of what we have done, what we have been able to do with the pandemic itself. So for me, I look at it as a positive because we have been able to try and invest in the ICT sector and also to ensure that we're able to innovate the production of vaccines. I've seen, I think, in Kenya and also South Africa, I think that we're able to start the production of vaccines. So, yes, in a nutshell, I can say that I look at the positive aspects of the pandemic itself. Thank you.
Maybe we need a new moderator.
Yeah, where is our moderator? He disappeared. Okay, so I think.
Sorry. Sorry. There is a question from Sylvan Boye, and I want to stay with you, Richard. Kindly help me with this. After this, I will ask Boatima's question, but I want to put that question to Matilda. She will join us soon. Do you think that the best thing to do before implementing AfCFTA and therefore boosting Intra African trade would have been to start with preliminary trade negotiations between blocks like East, West, Central, South, and North? Like, the idea is that couldn't we have started from the regional blocks? That is a question from Sylvan.
Maybe I'll answer the question in this way because I think in the AfCFTA itself, I think there is a provision where it stipulates that the agreement to actually build upon the existing regional economic communities. So in a nutshell, I can say that the AfCFTA itself just building upon the regional economic communities that are actually there. So for instance, we can see that the EAC is a bit advanced with regards to regional integration. So the AfCFTA will actually build upon such regional regs. So I think in a nutshell, just say that the AfCFTA itself build upon the regional economic communities. Thank you.
Fantastic. This question is from Boatima, and I'm putting this question to Matilda. Matilda, welcome back. We lost you briefly. Now, we are all familiar with the fact that Africa is home to a huge pool of SMEs, which certainly need support systems in order to become competitive and take advantage of AfCFTA. What are the critical support systems that governments across the continent need to put in place to support SMEs to become competitive and take advantage of AfCFTA opportunities? So this is to Matilda.
Yes, thank you. Apologies for the drop. I have a power cut. I'm not going to
power cut.
Yeah.
So you're talking about free trading and investment in electricity. You had a power cut. So that's by the by.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Anyways, yes, back to the question. So one of the major problems SMEs face is trade finance. So I think government should put more subsidized access to finance facilities. For instance, in Rwanda, we have facilities that are provided by the government. They're export growth funds, and they're also business development funds. So these are more subsidized at a rate that is affordable to SMEs or to any other business, depending on the need. These funds have a very low interest rate that SMEs can use to meet the domestic market needs and reduce the cost while producing for the domestic market, and also explore international markets. The other thing is there are certain aspects of trade facilitation that are more subsidized, like standardization. SMEs have a very low meet low standards of standardization of products. So governments have to, and all these certifications cost money. I mean, cost a lot for these SMEs, since they are set up companies, businesses. So we have, for instance, in Rwanda, we have a facility provided by Rwanda where certification for SMEs is the prices of certification for SMEs is catered for by 50% by the government. So governments have to look at initiatives or strategies that have cost cutting, cost cutting for these SMEs. I think with that, they will be able to reduce their cost of production, as at the same time meeting the standards of both the domestic market, regional, and also the continental level, because operational and cost of production is a very huge challenge for these SMEs.
Great. Last but one question. I think this is a very important question from Herbert Lawson. And this question goes to Holger. How do we ensure that the big multinational companies, it means that non-African owned, with big muscles and dominating trade in Africa, do not hijack the new AfCFTA for their own good? I ask because most of the indigenous African countries are operating through small, medium enterprises with very limited capacity. So how do we ensure that big conglomerates don't take advantage of AfCFTA at the expense of other companies?
Yes, I would provocatively say, let them take advantage of it, because that will help all of us, right? It doesn't mean that just because a big firm comes, everyone else will rest in silence, right? It's an opportunity. If a big firm comes, they need suppliers. They need everything around them. That usually comes with smaller firms. I think if we think that we are becoming one of the biggest firms in the course of 5 years, simply not possible. Those firms are hundreds of years old. They have built their legacy, and they are a contributor to a firm. So I think I would switch or flip the question around and say, let us get those big firms. Let us get the big OEMs to the continent, because the entire ecosystem will grow. Right? If you are a big OEM, what happens? You have tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 suppliers coming into the country or developing out of the country. So I would definitely see it with a bit more optimism.
Yeah,
it is a chance for the big ones to come, right? But also, let's not fool ourselves. When we talk to big firms, we know very well big firms come and go. What are they chasing? Opportunities. They go where the money is, right? And if they're not there, and they are not in our countries, most of them, apart from energy and some other sectors, that means they don't see opportunity, right? So in the AfCFTA, I think is that or could catalyze that opportunity. So my wish would be, let's get the big boys, right? Because they all have their small brothers and sisters around to support them.
Okay, great. The last question is to Pascal, and this is from Sangwani. Now, the question is, how can countries within the bloc be prepared to respond to economic shocks so as to prevent the offsetting of progress in trade within, after, and external trade? So how can countries on the continent respond to economic shocks?
Okay, that's a tough one. I assume COVID is, of course, a big shot.
Yeah.
I think when I talk with the politics, and those are the ones who make, of course, their policies of the country and their strategies, I think even they say they do not have a long vision. They don't have a long-term vision. But let's be fair. If COVID-19, nobody think about it.
Yeah.
And for example, the French president a couple of days ago inaugurated with the president of the Welfare Organization an academy in Lyon, so that they can train all the doctors, all the students all over the world, so that they can prepare to those shocks. Because when it happened, nobody was prepared for it. So we can understand that. But what is maybe more sad in Africa, it's even for things that could have been anticipated, we don't have enough. And this is, we don't have enough preparation. So what I will say is, and I imagine it's already existed, I think people should provide real feedback on all the issues they're encountering.
Okay.
And not in the political aspect, because in the political aspect, we always believe the coup is for the other one, it will never be for us. But I mean, on the economical aspect, what are the lessons learned? For example, when you see what happened in Benin, they closed the borders. With Nigeria, it was very different. I know some friend that they'll lose their company because they cannot export anymore on Nigeria. It became very tough. So is there like a mechanism that help people like sharing their experiences against all of it? I think this is only what we can do. But what's extraordinary in Africa, I will say, we have this capacity, a lot of versatility. People adapt very fastly. It doesn't mean we don't need to prepare. It means, I think, when the things happen, we adapt more quickly.
Sure.
And it links with another question we said, how can we do with the COVID and AfCFTA? I think the COVID destroyed a lot, but it also has some good spot, like for example, the internet, technology. Some company, a lot of companies, even big companies, even banks, haven't fully understood that sometimes digitalization, it's important, that you need to have contract digitalized. You need everything to be digitalized so that you can, not only to do remote work, but so that you can have a lot of data, you can analyze them, you can see if something's wrong, if something is good. So I think it's all about anticipation, and we need to have a set of priority, but regional priorities.
Okay.
As we said multiple times during our meeting of today, a lot of countries will say, okay, this is my priority. I want to do this. I want to do agro industry. I want to make petroleum, or I want to make like airlines. But yes, you cannot do it by your own. So I think we need to set some priorities, not like 3 or 4 of them, but 5 or 6 countries each time, and try to anticipate all kind of risk. We need to have a risk approach, like kind of like a company, to see what may happen in 5 or 10 years. And today I'm not convinced that all of our leaders have understood that enough. And the people who knows the risk, for example, the private actors, the companies, they know it, but maybe they don't want, maybe they don't have interest, or maybe they don't have the power to challenge it, because those are the ones who actually knows what can happen. but they don't maybe have the power to change it or to implement it. So I think we should have like a discussion between companies and government toward multiple countries to know what to prepare for the best.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. At this point, I want to pick just under 1 minute closing remarks from all of us. I'm going to start from Matilda to Richard to Helga and then to Pascal, and then we are going to call it a day. 1 minute closing remarks.
Yes, thank you so much. As we've all been discussing about the Intra Africa and the competitiveness of Africa, I think it's up to generally us, the member states, to embrace this, and we for the governments to do whatever initiatives so that we meet these the objectives of the AfCFTA. And trust me, it will be a success. Maybe in the next 10 decades from now. It's not a short-term plan. It's a long-term plan. Just like the rest of the agreements, like the AU have eventually achieved their objectives after, say, like 72 years. So I think, to me, it will be a very good start for the Africans, for the African continent. Thank you.
Fantastic. Richard.
Thank you. I think the AfCFTA presents an opportunity for the continent actually to increase its intra-African trade share, which is currently at 15%. So I think also UNECA did mention that implementation of the AfCFTA would increase intra-African trade by 50% by 2022. So this is an opportunity for the continent to actually try and improve on our intra-African trade and also global trade itself. So I just want also to thank the organizers for this opportunity to be one of the panelists. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Helga. And then the last will be Pascal.
Okay, thanks, Emmanuel and the team. Well put together everything. So 2 things from my side. One, let's not overthink after. I would say one port at a time, one border at a time, one issue at a time, right? It's a massive task, right? It has never happened anywhere else in the world before on that level. So let's not overthink it, but tackle the issues one at a time. Point 2, I believe, let us on the continent really believe in what we have. Everyone wants what we have on the continent, right? How can we supply and provide to the world what they want on our terms and our facilities to be manufactured, value added, and then shipped to the rest of the world? Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much. Then Pascal.
I will have like only one point, and it will be a trust and solidarity. I really believe that if we as as people want to work with Africa, are supporting each other with values, it will create an amazing thing. I'm from Togo. I see Matilda is from Rwanda. I think Richard is from Rwanda too. Emmanuel from Ghana. Olga is in Kenya, if I've understood well. Deshikta is also maybe you're from Madagascar. Mauritius, yes. It's so we all of different region, different countries, and this is how we should build Africa. Not see, okay, it's only my friend. I don't want to work with these of this country. I only want to work with the people of my country. I don't want them. The opportunities, they are worldwide. Actually, the real opportunity is not only in a country. It's worldwide. It's in Africa. It's in Europa. It's in Asia. And we need to think about it. At some point, I hope it will be us African investing in Asia, investing in Europa. Not only you have like people of Europa coming in Africa for investment. So for me, that's the point. And the real point is also some values. Everybody talk about values, about ethics, but who really cares of it? The only thing I've witnessed is with the people I know. It can be Olga, it can be Matilda, it can be Emmanuel. will you, when you will be millionaire, billionaire, or minister, will you still have your value? This is the real question, actually. This is the thing. So we need to make people around us and trust them with real value, hard work, trust, freedom, and not only money over everything. Money is good, but you need to earn it. You need to earn it. So if I think some dignity, it's what we lack sometimes, not only in Africa, in the whole world. But in Africa, it's much more tough because we don't have the same infrastructure that we may have in other countries. So this is my message: trust and solidarity between all Africans, to trust ourselves and to do fruitful projects together. And I'm pretty sure it will be amazing, and look forward to 10 years or 20.
Thank you very much, panelists. I think that I have learned so many things, and we all have to be optimistic about this free trade area, and Africa will develop. Thank you very much for honoring this invitation, and thank you very much for the insight. I will defer back to the sector to make announcements, and then we'll call it a day.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you to the panelists. On behalf of ICCE, thank you very much. And thank you to our participants as well for joining and staying till the very end. So we do have upcoming webinars as well. We have one on the 5th of October. So I'll just share the link in our chat box for our panelists and our participants to have a look. So it's about economics of religion. If this is of your interest, please do register for the upcoming webinar, and we shall see you very soon. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. See you soon, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.